Welcome to Blooming Wand, your home for grounded spiritual content. I'm Emily O'Neill, evidential psychic medium, intuitive healer, and coach. And I thought you might enjoy a card pull for the full moon on June 11th. I used the Lightseer's tarot deck and we pulled the Ace of Cups. And I feel like this month's full moon holds special significance because it's the last one before the summer solstice, that sacred moment each year when the daylight reaches its fullest expression. And the theme of this episode is cupped hands, open hearts, full moon wisdom before the solstice. From the full moon to the solstice, we find ourselves suspended between two magnificent sources of light, the full moon on June 11th and the brilliant sun on the summer solstice, which is around June 20th. And this is a time of fulfillment and completion where the seeds that we've planted throughout the year are ready to bloom. It's during this threshold that we often discover the courage to honor our deepest truths, to step boldly into our fullest expression of love and devotion. And I did craft a tarot curated intention and affirmation for us to work with this moon cycle, and I will share that with you now. And here is our card, the Ace of Cups, just holding it up for those of you watching this online. Here's our intention. I open my heart to receive and give love freely. I trust my emotional truth and fill my own cup first, then share from that overflow. Here's your affirmation. My heart is open to divine love. I trust my emotions and honor my truth. I'm worthy of joy and fulfillment. Now, the Ace of Cups from the Lightseer's Tarot is a powerful archetype that speaks to new emotional beginnings and spiritual awakening. We see this in how the artwork beautifully depicts hands cupped protectively around a chalice that radiates divine light and cosmic energy. Looking at this card, I see hands gently cradling a glowing cup or vessel that appears to hold liquid light and celestial energy. Streams of ethereal water flow from this sacred chalice, while radiant beams of light emanate outward against a starry cosmic backdrop. The composition suggests both receiving and offering. It seems like the hands both hold and present this gift of divine love and emotional renewal. So let's dive a little bit more deeply into this Ace of Cups. So the Ace of Cups represents a profound spiritual and emotional opening, and this card signals the beginning of a new cycle of love and intuition and just heart-centered awareness. It's an invitation from the universe to receive divine grace and to trust the flow of your emotions and your intuitive wisdom. This card often appears when we're being called to open our hearts more fully to love, creativity, and spiritual connection. We are invited to engage our authentic, emotional truth at this time. Now, under June's full moon, this card encourages you to create sacred space for emotional release and renewal. Consider what your heart is truly yearning for and allow yourself to receive the universe's offerings of love and support. And this can come in a lot of different ways. Practice acts of emotional generosity towards yourself and to others, and trust the intuitive messages flowing to you or through you right now, as your psychic sensitivity may be heightened. I know for myself around solstices and equinoxes, I feel a real deep connection to nature, and I often journal a lot more and meditate a little bit more. And I do feel like those times for me are like a portal because I do feel so deeply connected to nature's cycles. And insights and wisdom do often come to me when I'm writing in my journal. And I've learned to pay attention to that and to reflect on it and to take it for what it is and to listen to the guidance that flows through me. And now, this is definitely a time to fill your own cup first and then share from that overflow, and let this full moon illuminate what brings you genuine emotional fulfillment, and take the first brave steps towards honoring those feelings in your daily life. And think about how you will honor your heart's calling during this powerful threshold between the full moon's illumination and the solstice's abundant light. So, what brings you joy will fill your cup. And when your cup is full, you can kind of let that spill out into those that are around you or near you or that you're interacting with. It's very, very simple. But simple doesn't always mean easy. I say that a lot. And for a long time, I didn't really understand what emotional fulfillment was. And I'd hear people talking about this stuff all the time, and I'd be like, well, what does that even mean? And this was definitely a time where I was working a lot and disengaged from self-care and spiritual practices, and I was just really focused on kind of getting the job done, getting the bills paid, and I didn't have a lot of energy for anything else, because I was probably working too many hours in the week. And I think part of the reason that I was doing that was because I didn't believe that I could have the things that I knew I wanted or desired in my life. For whatever reason, I just pushed this idea of emotional fulfillment and joy aside and said, well, I'm here to work to earn a living so that I'm not like a burden on anybody. And that was the most important thing to me. And I feel like we all struggle with what emotional fulfillment is at different points in our life. And so I think it's worth it to talk about what is emotional fulfillment and to take step back and assess, are you feeling emotionally fulfilled right now, and why or why not? Not from a place of criticism or anything like that, but from a place of genuine curiosity. And because if we approach it from a place of, why am I doing this? I'm so bad, I'm no good. It doesn't feel very good, and I don't know that you'll find the answers that you need with that approach, but I have found that when I'm like, why am I acting like this from a place of curiosity, things start to bubble up. And you know me, I'm always going to do that through journaling. So I have some journal prompts to help you discover what emotional fulfillment means to you. And take your time with these questions and remember that emotional fulfillment often lives in the simple everyday moments just as much as it can in, wonderful grand gestures. Grand gestures don't happen all the time, right? And so I feel like leaning into this practice of gratitude for maybe day-to-day things that you really enjoy can be very, very helpful. It was a long time ago. My sister and I were walking. We go on walks sometimes, and we were talking about life. And I was telling her, I was like, life is just made up of a bunch of day-to-day, simple, small moments that become the story of our lives. And I told her, I was like, I'm just really starting to realize that. And she remembered that conversation. And now I have a little, it's like a little wooden plaque thing that just says basically that life is made up of the simplest of simple things. And those moments link to other moments, and that creates the tapestry of our lives and our personal experiences. And we don't have to look as far as maybe we think we do to see some things that might fill our cup. So here are some journal prompts to help you figure out what fills your cup. Here's the first one. When do I feel most like myself? Reflect on moments when you felt completely at ease, authentic, and aligned. And what were you doing? Who were you with? And what qualities of that experience made your heart feel full? And as I've been reflecting on this journal prompt, one of my favorite things right now that is really filling my cup is walking through the garden that I have been tending and tending to and seeing all of the flowers blooming. I am elated with how much I have, how many beautiful flowers are blooming in the yard right now. Spring started off strong with a lot of azaleas and rhododendrons and the blooming, I have a flowering cherry tree, and I was like, wow, it can't get any better than this. And then now I have the roses are blooming. I've got all kinds of native wildflowers starting to bloom. I was just looking at my blueberry bushes, and they are loaded. And I have to say, they've been kind of struggling over the last few years. So I've been really tending them and taking care of them, hoping that I would get lots of blueberries this year. And each evening, I just walk through the garden, later and later now because the days are getting longer, and just kind of slowly look at what's going on out there. And I have noticed that it's not going to be long before the dragonflies emerge. I caught a glimpse of one just the other day, and that tells me that it won't be long before the butterflies start coming out. There was some fennel that I planted at the back of the garden, and it was covered in beautiful ladybugs, eating aphids that were growing on some of the stuff. And I was like, go, ladybugs, go. So that was really making my heart feel full. And from that fullness comes like a desire for me to write poetry or poems. It comes a desire to draw, to express myself, to open myself up to other people. Um, that's something that I've noticed for myself. The other thing that has been really feeling good to me is when I'm helping other people. I really do love to show up for the people that I love and for my community. And when I can find ways to do that that align with my values, it feels really good. So I do think it's worth it to think about when you feel most like yourself and to reflect on moments when you felt completely at ease, authentic, and aligned. And listen, there was a time in my life where I never felt that. Like I really didn't. And I'm not saying that I feel that all the time, every moment of each day, but I feel it frequently. And that makes me feel like, I don't know, it makes me feel more me. And I wonder how it would make you feel to have moments like this in your life. They're very meaningful. Here's your second journal prompt. What activities make you lose track of time? Consider the things that absorb you so completely that hours pass without notice. These flow states often point toward what genuinely nourishes your soul. So when you're just in the flow of something and you're doing it, and for me, again, it's simple tasks, and sometimes it's a really mundane task. Like I got way in the flow of doing chores around the house the other day, and it felt so good to sort of zhuzh it up, so to speak. And I find that I get in the flow to do that oftentimes around equinox and solstices. I'll sweep through the house and do like a deep clean and change my altar spaces and shift some books around so that I maybe start looking at new ideas and new concepts and new poetry. And I really got swept up in that. And the other weekend, my sister and I, we've been working on a family photo project. And she and I spent hours in this room going through all the photos, putting together some photo albums, talking about what we were finding and discovering. And I couldn't believe it. We started in the kind of late morning, and then I looked up at the clock and I was like, oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock. And we were just like, wow, I can't believe we were so swept up in that. Because let me tell you, working on like family genealogy or photo projects or things like that, it doesn't always feel, it's not always easy to feel in the flow of that, but there was something about that day where this energy was around us that we were just like, let's do this. And I think that that's important to pay attention to, is like sometimes we have energy to do things and sometimes we don't. But when we seize the moment, when we're kind of riding that wave of like, I have the energy, that flow state will come. So that's been something that I learned recently about myself and something that I experienced. And I just share so to get your guys' creative juices flowing and to give you ideas about how you might approach these journal prompts. And for context, here is your third prompt. If I could design a perfect day with no limitations, what would it include? Let yourself dream without practical constraints. What relationships, activities, environments, and experiences would fill this day? Now, this idea of sort of visualizing what your perfect day would look like is something that I learned about when I read Martha Beck's Finding Your North Star. I think her perfect day exercises in that book. Either way, the idea of the perfect day does come from Martha Beck. Her work is not that new. She's been around for quite a while, but the idea is, I think she recommends this and I agree with it, that to think about your perfect day right when you wake up if you can. So you're not quite awake, you're not quite asleep, you're starting to get up and you say, okay, if I had no limitations and just let my imagination run wild, what would my perfect day look like? Who would I be with? Where would I be? What would the room that I'm in look like? How would I be sharing my time? What activities would I want to do? And you just think about it or feel into it with no rules, no constraints, no nothing. And it's It's pretty fun because I feel like when we work with our imagination and our dreams a little bit, it opens us up to the possibility of what it would feel like to be in that perfect day. And then it attunes us to the things that feel good to us and that are aligned maybe with our desires. And so that's why this journal prompt is here, is to help you feel into, if you could design a perfect day with no limitations, what would be included in it. Now, when I first started journaling around this exercise, and I do it pretty frequently, boy, I wanted to put some rules on it. I'd be like, that's not practical. You're never going to go to that place, or you'll never see that person anytime soon. So I did feel the part of me that was sort of like, maybe not wanting or believing that I could achieve my dreams or even pretend to achieve them or pretend to have a perfect day come up. And I bet that will happen for you too. And we just want to maybe ask that part of ourselves to give me a little space. I'm just pretending. I know you're here, but we don't want that part of ourselves to be in the driver's seat when we do that journal prompt. But I also want to acknowledge that it could show up. Now, the next journal prompt is, when you were a child, what brought you pure joy? Sometimes your youngest self knows exactly what makes you happy because it's not yet learned to doubt or dismiss those desires. So the part of you, the young inner child that believed that you could do the things that you wanted to do, like connecting with her or him or they or whoever they are, connecting with that part of who you are. I know for me that took some work because when I was a kid, I kind of grew up in a little bit of a chaotic environment. There's a lot going on. And so although my sisters and I were great at play, we love to play, I can also sense and feel that when I was young, the part of me that um, felt it needed to take care of other people crept in at a young age. So we kind of want to go to a time prior to any of those things and leaning into the part of you that was young, that didn't know or wasn't doubting or dismissing your desires. I think it's not really realistic to think that even when we're young that wasn't happening. It probably was, but we really want to tap into a time when we felt completely free and able to engage in our imagination, our dreams, our desires. And that often came to me through play, through ideas, and through the type of play that I loved to do. So here's your final journal prompt. What compliments or appreciation do I receive that feels most meaningful? The praise that touches us deepest. So the praise or the acknowledgement that touches us very deeply often reflects our authentic gifts and the ways that we naturally bring joy to others and to ourselves. And I know that sometimes people acknowledge or praise certain behaviors in me, and it doesn't feel good. And there are other times where it feels really good. And paying attention to that has really taught me that, like the example that's coming to my head right now is when I worked in healthcare information systems and technology, I was really rewarded for how much I got done. you know, yep, in the capitalistic corporate world, we're often rewarded for being highly, highly productive. And I was definitely a high producer, very good at what I did. But I have to say, when they'd be like, wow, how do you get all that done? It didn't feel good to me because I was pushing myself too hard and working too hard. I would be like, oh my gosh, now you're going to make me or ask me to do more now that you know that I can do a lot. I'm going to be asked to do more and more and more. So when I would get that compliment, I would kind of be like, uh-oh, ugh. But when people would say, I really appreciated how you helped so-and-so with that issue that they were having, you really made their day great, that would make me feel really good because helping people makes me feel great. So all of that to say, you can incorporate these journal prompts into your spiritual and self-care practices on this wonderful full moon on June 11th, the last full moon before the summer solstice. And I'll be back on the summer solstice with some offerings for you, just for you, crafted by me. But in the meantime, don't forget to find me at www.bloomingwand.com. I have lots of services that are available, including a mentoring program, and I do still have a few openings for one-on-one readings if you're interested in that. If you're wondering if I'm the right person for you to even be working with, there's an option for you to book a 20-minute discovery call with me. In the meantime, take good care of yourselves, get those journals out, and I'll see you soon.